Greetings, African people. I wish this was alive. The mood that I'm in right now, this would be better served as a live video. This is reaching out to my subscribers, my ride or die friends, I'm going to call you. Today, I got some things on my mind, and I'm not in a hurry to say it. So, this is going to be long. And after I see the regular people have watched, then I might remove it. I think every person at different points in his or her life need to reevaluate themselves. No one is altogether right about anything. And I find that I always try to reevaluate the things that I'm thinking. Can you please turn that down? Uh, Take a second look at my position as a woman, as a black woman, as a wife, as a mother, as a friend. Whatever role I'm playing at that particular time, I always try to reevaluate that as a worker, as a staff. We have to do this from time to time, and I have been doing a lot of reevaluation. And some things are coming up that for some reason I missed, and I can't ignore those things. So, for one, you all know I'm Jamaican. You all know our history about how our people were brought to Jamaica through the slave trade. We don't have to get into all of that. Most of you here already know that. But what I noticed after watching a video yesterday, and I'm going to give you a clip of that video. I got permission to use it, and I'm not going to give you all of it in its entirety. I'm going to get you to watch it for yourself from that gentleman's channel, just a little bit, where the African warrior went to visit Jamaica, and he's pouring libation. I'm very fascinated with that aspect of the video. But after watching the video and really thinking about some things, I realized that I've erred in the way I have approached the topics that I deal with. Most of it coming from a place of hurt, most of it coming from experiences, most of it thinking that if I speak out, I will antagonize individuals and force them to listen to me. And while that might work for Black people, that doesn't always work for the oppressor. So, individuals who are racist, and again, I'm not generalizing every person, every white person is not racist, every Black person is not a fighter or a person who cares about his or her own race. We understand that. But I have thought that in being antagonistic about the topics that I talk about, somehow individuals would understand that this is not a joke, and thereby try to do things or put things in place to address those situations and to change them. But let's start with the country that I live in, Canada. Beautiful country that I've always told you that it's beautiful and it's clean and whatever. But it is this same place that I've had these very horrible racist experiences. And now, when I'm doing this reevaluation, I'm saying to myself, why would I expect things to be different for me? And the question is, do I even have the right to complain for the Black American or the Black Canadian or the Black British person or Australian or anywhere in the world where Black people live who experience racism? Some are born in that environment, some were brought there from generations back through the slave trade, and so they had no choice. I personally have a choice. I chose to come to Canada. I came here for a better life. Yes, I didn't come here to be abused. But the thing about it is, this country have had a history in the past of abusing the indigenous people. And those indigenous people are on reservations and different places in this country still fighting for their rights. Now, I had a conversation with a person who said he was a First Nations person, an indigenous person. And even though I had my doubts, because the conversation back and forth kind of seemed a bit shady with the individual. But the point that that person made, still, it doesn't matter. Person says that he's a First Nation person, and who am I to be here complaining about what I'm experiencing when he had to go through those things from the time he was born, and heard stories from his father's father about the things that they have experienced in this land. And we went back and forth for a while that day talking, and he was very angry, and he said things that normally would be offensive, but I was not offended, because he said he was a First Nation person, and every argument he made, whether he was white or First Nation, was very valid. If it was someone being antagonistic, trying to upset me because I'm talking about racism in this space, it still worked. The indigenous people of these lands still find themselves in reservations, still find themselves, you know, living below poverty mark in many cases. And here I am, not bound, free to leave, and I stay and I complain. So those Americans who have nowhere else to go because their generations tied to the land of the USA, and same for Black people who live here who've been tied to this environment, you know, for me to come here and complain about racism, the very thing that kept them in bondage, the very thing that caused them great hurt and very great suffering, who am I to complain? That was a very valid argument. And I want to say this also, that the individuals that were responsible for bringing African person through the slave trade to the different parts of the world, including the Caribbean, where I am from, those individuals are the ones who rule the world today, not those particular main persons who did that, but ancestors. Some are ancestors. Some still enjoy the benefits of world power. Those individuals who can go back and do through their ancestry, find out that this one was my great 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 grandfather and all that. These individuals are the ones who still rule the world today. And I'm thinking to myself, who are you, without power, without resources, to think that you can stand out here and with your big mouth say all these things as if it's going to make a difference? For one, as a Black person, the whole world knows that I really have very little power. Not because we can't have the power, because we do have power within us. Human beings born into this earth or world are born with power. But as economic power and political power, we don't possess that. All we possess is words. And, every so often we make noise, which usually it gets squashed with a handshake or an embrace, or usually gets squashed with buying out individuals who are for sale. I, in spite of how I'm able to look at situation and address things and talk about things that are the truth, that make you say, yes, I agree, this is what we're going through. How is speaking about these things helping our position? How is it helping me socially, economically, spiritually? It doesn't do anything but bring more power to the ones who I claim is oppressing me. For the more you talk about inequality, and the more I talk about racism, and the more I talk about individuals with power, it only gives them more power. Because regardless of what I say, regardless how deep I can be, or the things that I say that you can recognize and that resonate with you, speaking about it changes nothing. I also want to talk about how our revolutionary fighters in the past, you name them, but let's just look at Bob Marley, look at Marcus Garvey, look at Claude McKay, for example. These individuals have been to the States, they've been around the world spreading the message about liberation, about, freedom for themselves and their race. And if they don't end up dead, they end up in prison or they die in abject poverty. And I must say, we're always talking about liberation, but what are we trying to get liberation from? Because if you live in countries that are dominated by individuals who you claim don't like you, and you're speaking against the system and you have no power to change that system, what is the point? What is the point of that? And then we say we want liberation. And these persons that I mentioned, Bob Marley, Marcus Garvey, Claude McKay, they were in a position to liberate themselves. They were in a position to go to Africa because they were talking about Africa, liberating themselves and bringing other persons to Africa. yet they died in the very places where they claim that they were in bondage. There is something wrong with that mindset. So I'm saying here today that no one is holding me here in Canada physically. If I don't leave, it's because of pride. If I don't leave, it's because I'm thinking financially, I'm not able to do in my community what I want to do. I'm not able to do for myself that I would want to do. And that thought is very limiting. It is very limiting. There is no point in me sitting here day after day talking about racism, talking about power structures and system that I don't control. Because as I end this video, it is very likely and possible that someone could knock on my door and haul me off for whatever reason. Where's the power? Calling and naming these things that we're dealing with, where is the power in that? Also, Black people are confused. And the ones who say they're leaders, maybe their intention is good and pure, but oftentimes when you really take a close look, the liberation that we claim that we seek is not to liberate ourselves to become free and independent nation. It's to always receive that embrace, to see that acknowledgement or that love from the very person who we say is oppressing us. So you find the Rastafarian in Jamaica who claim that they want liberation, they want freedom. They're married to white women. And you see, I saw something that was very disturbing because they were there marching and going about talking about cleaning up the environment. And what I saw were white people in that midst walking alongside them. And it makes me say, what are you talking about liberation? What are you talking about trying to be empowering your community when you can't do nothing by yourself? Every area that we seek improvement in, we invite a white person to come and tell us how to do it. And then we turn around and we look at those white persons and we say to them, oh, you are oppressing us, you are abusing us, you are doing this and that. But the first time we need something done, we always turn to the same people. We are always the same ones saying to them, you are doing these horrible things to us. We want to liberate ourselves, but hey, come here. Why don't you come here and tell us how to liberate ourselves? Or we're going to liberate ourselves. We're freeing ourselves. We have these rhetoric, these arguments that does not make any sense. I'm freeing myself from bondage. I'm dealing with racism. I think Europeans and Euro Americans have done all these things to our people, and we are this, that, and the other. And yet, every opportunity we get, all we want to do is go to these places, stay in these places, stay there and whine and complain. White people, I don't blame you for being annoyed. And I don't blame you for getting so fed up sometimes that you just line us up and shoot us because we are so stupid and we don't know what we're about. I am also one of those individuals who have looked at the situation in a very selfish way. For a while, our conditions, I'm not saying that our issues are not relevant or they're not important, but what reason? Why am I here talking about racism all the time? Why am I here calling out white folks for things that have done in the past and present? They're not the only ones I call out. I call out Black people too, but I am part of the problem. I am part of the problem. And from what I'm seeing and understanding, when you look at families, when you look at our communities, when you look at the issues that we're facing in our own group, our self hate, or hatred towards the other person in our community, or our willingness to open up and invite everybody and trust everyone, and always be willing to jump on the other person who look like me. I have no patience, absolutely no patience. Now, my patience honestly have run out. And I am now saying today, it's a new day for me. I will not allow myself to be abused by anybody. I have absolutely no respect for anybody based on class, race, gender, whatever is your orientation. I have no respect for you any more than you have for me. I will give you what you give me. I'll meet you where you are at. I do understand that by pointing out these differences and pointing out the things that are going wrong, it doesn't change anything. I got to change. I have to change. And right now, I don't move the way I'm told to move. I'm not thinking the way many persons think anymore. In order for me to be free, I got to free myself. And I have attachments to ideologies, to things, to nations, to cultures, and cultural upbringing that oftentimes negate me as a person, negate me as a black woman. And I can't wait for someone else to see what this is. I have to see what my own personal mistakes have been, what they continue to be, and fix myself. I can't fix you. I can speak all the right things. I can tell you, this is what we're doing wrong. But what's the point in knowing what we're doing wrong when there's no solution about how to do it right? We are a broken people, damaged goods. And those of you who consider yourself to be, whole, blessings to you. I don't adhere to certain philosophies anymore. And I don't apologize for those things anymore. And truthfully speaking, I don't spend too much time listening to persons coming to me with the same BS ideology that only makes me feel like I was cursed long before I was born. This is why I complete and flat out reject Christianity altogether. Now, I'm not trying to be disrespectful of other persons who are Christian. God be with you. Godspeed. Blessings to you, my dear. But it's not my philosophy. And when I think about politics, when you really open your mouth and speak about politics, it's like a Russian roulette because you're going to piss off people. You're going to make people upset. And now I think people should be enlightened, but I no longer want to carry the burden of defending the black man or black woman or be the spokesperson of the black man or the black woman because they didn't ask me to be. And the truth of the matter is, when I go out there and I were to stand up and defend our people, when I look around, there'll be no one there standing to protect me. At this point in my life, my reevaluation brings me to that point where I'm saying, in order for me to liberate anybody, I would have to first liberate myself. In order for me to talk about injustice and inequality, I would have to be forced to be in a situation where I have got no choice but to rebel. And that is not my condition. That's not my situation right now. Africa, I see as home. Africa itself needs to be liberated, but you have to liberate yourself first. And while no one ties me here, I don't want to end up like those revolutionary fighters who said that these parts they wanted to go back to Africa and these parts kept them in bondage, and still lock myself in a place where it's not going to change. It won't ever change. Rhetoric will change. These sugar coated responses will always be there. But true change will never come until people are set free, free to live their lives, to enjoy the thing that was created for us all to enjoy. When there is equality among all men, that will never happen because those who are in power will never teach those who are powerless how to obtain that power. It will never happen. You might be able to benefit from the crumbs falling off of the table of the master, but you will never be able to take that table and treat it as if it's your own when you're in a master's house. You can never do that. And this country that I live in was taken from the First Nation people through bloodshed shed, and all kinds of abominable things. And while individuals live here, perhaps would not repeat that action, the point of the matter is, when I stay here and I complain about the things that are wrong as opposed to the things that are right, I'm not sure what I'm doing to myself. I'm not sure what I'm asking for myself. From this day onward, I will not allow anybody to abuse me physically and personally. I can't speak for you. I can't stand up for you. You have to stand up for your own self, take care of your own self. Not even my children I will subject myself to abuse from anymore. And the language that I would use, I'm not responsible for that language. Any damn thing that comes to my mind, anything that allows me to release stress, that free myself from some kind of eternal bondage, I will use that. My home is supposed to be where I live. But if I live in a space where I always feel like an outsider and always feel fearful that if I speak how I feel truly, that I will be prosecuted. Every African person who we call a hero is dead. And every liberator who've ever stood up for their people, who've always said, this is what I want, is dead. And you have individuals spewing venom and hatred and calling other persons terrorists when the very thing they do match that of the terrorists. Because I don't deny that there are terrorists in the world, but the terrorists that are in the world are being managed by other persons who are terrorists, and that's why you can never see peace in this world. There'll never be peace because you need peace, somebody who is peaceful to demand peace. People who are warriors will not demand peace. So the hypocrisy that exists with people talking about peace when they're nothing but warmongers, it is just pure ridiculousness. I have no idea. I know I've already ruined opportunities for myself with the things that I've already said, and I'm not trying to take those back. But I'm trying to say I also don't want to be like those black leaders who say, this is what I want, this is what I want change, this is all I want to see my community grow and be empowered. And at the same time, as soon as they're doing something that is going to benefit their own community, the first thing they do is swing the door wide open and ask individuals who want to keep them in abject poverty, who want to keep them suppressed and oppressed, come in here. I'm not doing that. Now, that does not make me a hateful person. What it makes me do be is a person who's sensible. You can't ask the vegetarian how to prepare meat. That doesn't make any sense, does it? You can't change the nature of the beast. If I am an angry person, no matter how much I try to suppress that, something is going to happen to ignite that and make me angry again. I got to love me. I have to love myself. And I have not loved myself. All the stories I have shared with you, with people abusing me, is because I didn't love myself. I might have loved myself as a black woman, but I didn't love myself enough to preserve my sanity, to say the things that I give to you are things that I need for myself. And you need to build yourself. I need to build myself too. I thought that was very selfish. So there's something in me that have caused some of these abuses that I have received. And now I'm not just looking at those abusive situations anymore. I have to look at me and say, what is it about me that pulls that kind of energy, that kind of negativity towards me? Am I never going to speak about issues that affect black people? I will. But I'll not speak about it and say white people are bad people that have done these bad things to us. It's pathetic. I heard the man speaking yesterday, and I heard him talking about black people are powerful, black people are this, black people are that, black people are that. And then I heard him say, let's get together with white folks and together we can do this. And it makes absolutely no sense. It's very schizophrenic. We are human beings first, and we all can live in a world where we are amicably respectful towards others. But in our community, it is necessary for us to build together. It's necessary for us to shift away from that servant master kind of relationship, always expecting persons to take care of our interests. They will never take care of your interests, because you need to understand that the servant master role is one that is never equal, and it never will be equal. And if this country is owned or ruled by individuals who fought for it, why should they let that go? Why should they release that? If it was so important to these individuals from Europe and wherever they came from to fight and shed blood and claim their freedom to be in these places, why would these individuals suddenly, after hundreds of years, open the door to giving me the same equal rights that they have, when they're the ones who, through bloodshed and sweat and tears, we did build them through slave labor, these countries. But at the same time, nobody is gonna make me king in a country without a king. No one is gonna make a black woman queen in a white kingdom. Never happen as long as you live. The things that happened in the past will continue to happen now. We understand them for what they are, and we just say, okay, let us reconcile to ourselves. that everybody that ever stood out and fight against the thing that is, it's not ended very well for them. I got dreams. I have hopes. I have ambition in my life, some of which is now tainted uh, in this space because I spoke how I was feeling. I didn't do the tongue in cheek accolade. I didn't, sugarcoat my words. I didn't, I swore and I yelled and I cried, and I was not always nice. And now I'm not trying to be nice. I will never be nice again. But now I don't want to tell you what you already know. I don't want to be that mouthpiece for the Black community. Black communities in shambles. Families in our Black community are a mess. We are a disgrace to ourselves and to our community. I can't fix you because there are things that I need to fix in my own life. I can't be someone who motivates you and inspire you when there are things in my life that I'm still working on, challenges that I need to overcome. We know, we know the story already. We know what was done, and the tenacity and the courage and the determination that individuals have had to ensure that their group not necessarily remain cohesive, but that group remains powerful is something that I should not covet. And as a First Nation man says, who the hell are you to think that you can come in this place and have an easy, comfortable life and be treated nicely when we are cast off and treated like ish? And he was right. Even if he was not a real Black First Nation person, even if it was someone posing the said things he said, why do you think that I'm going to step back and give you power and welcome you when I have not done so? I wasn't generous, I wasn't kind, I wasn't compassionate, I wasn't thoughtful, I wasn't caring of the individuals who for whom the creator placed on this land and said this is yours. Black people are not about nothing except talking, me being one of them. Nothing. All we do is talk, 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 talk. We're not about nothing. You don't have to hate somebody to understand what has happened in history and use sleep to mark death. No one's tying me down in Canada. And I stay because of pride and pride alone. Pride. Because I'm not welcome here. I'm not treated with respect or dignity here. I've had many, many bad experiences. I stayed, even though I could have left. And many of us will never go to Africa because of dignity. Not dignity that we feel or have, but because we feel like this place offers us more and more in terms of material possessions. Look at me. This is how I want to look every day. I can't afford to look like this every day because, but this is how I'm supposed to look. This is me, a Black woman. Yes, when you see me, you should know. And I shouldn't have to apologize. I shouldn't have to apologize for how I look. I shouldn't be seeking acceptance from anybody. I'm already accepted. I was created in the beauty and the likeness of the Creator. Born beautiful, born as a queen. And yet I'm asking for a man or a woman to give me the right to reign on my throne. What kind of nonsense is that? We don't want change. We want embrace. We want love. We want acceptance. And we're the worst when it comes to being so disrespectful towards each other. We are the first to use the white man's Bible. And for those of you who don't believe this is so, then God be with you and your blessings to you. But to take the very word from the scripture that puts you as filth and garbage and scums of the earth, and take that as soon as you hear something happening in a Black country in Haiti, visited by hurricane or earthquake or whatever, and they're devastated, you have Black people talking about, yes, God is visiting them with justice, What about the evil visited upon other persons in the world from the time immortal until this very moment? Who is visiting them with words from the scripture? Well, right there in Rome, right there in Rome, I went there. I saw the Colosseum where blood was shed in that venue for entertainment for people. People sat there and made big laugh, riotous living, watched people murder each other in that environment. Where is God? Where is somebody to come out with the prophecy, the prophecies that are in the Bible, with the seven head and the seven serpents and the seven different places, and talk about these nations who have ruled upon fear and alibi, who have killed and murdered people, for all kinds of things. God only has strength for black people, and that pisses me off that black people are accepted. They've never stopped for a moment and say, how the hell can I serve a God who send hail and fire and brimstone from my people alone based on what I have done? So we have done these evil things in the past. We're not doing those evil things right now because everybody else is doing the same thing. Why just black people? That's not my philosophy. That's not my acceptance. If it's yours, God be with you. Bless you, whatever you believe in. But I personally know who I am as a black person. And I also understand the errors of my ways. And I also understand and see clearly why every black person, every black revolutionary fighter have ended in the position that they have been in. Because at the end of the day, they claimed they wanted liberation, but they didn't want it. And those who had the power or the money to obtain it, still remained. Claude McKay, I admire him as an artist, but he died in abject poverty in the environments that he spoke about. And when you listen carefully, he said when he left from the United States and went to live in Europe, when he had to go back to the United States, he was leaving from heaven to hell. And how was that the case? When the same people that were in Europe was the same ones that he had in America. He was seeking acceptance. He didn't die in Africa. Bob Marley didn't die in Africa. And I am talking here, this is that I've not been to Africa. We have to reevaluate ourselves and stop telling lies. Stop talking about how we are freedom fighters. Stop talking about how we want, blah, blah, blah. We don't want nothing. We don't want nothing. We don't want nothing. We are broke, most of us. And because you have a house that the mortgage is at the bank and the vehicle that you take 4 years to pay off and this and that, we are broke. Few circumstances, few things happen in our life and we're back to square one no matter what. We are broke. We're fractured. We're separated because we're stupid. We fight the wrong battle. I can't fight white people in Canada and fight white people anywhere else for that matter. Why should I go fight them in areas where they fought and obtained? Why am I coming to white folks to say, this is what you did, blah, blah, blah. This is how I wanted to understand my position. Why? They're human beings like me. I have empowered them by constantly talking about them as I am. I will not be doing that anymore. I will not be talking about what white folks are doing and what they're not doing. And it is foolish. When I watched the documentary and I heard the man talking so much about the white people this and the white people that, I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I'm guilty of that too. For every time you talk about somebody, you give them life, you give them power. Every time you make them the central theme in your conversation, all you're doing is telling these individuals that, oh, you're more important than me. And the whole world is under a spell, always talking about white people this and that and white people blah, 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 and not realize that it's you who constantly speak about these individuals, constantly act as if they are different from you, constantly giving them impression that you need their opinions to move forward. It's our fault, not their faults. Bless up to all the people in the world who are about love and unity and would not go out of their way to oppress anybody. Blessings to those individuals. But white people still control the world. They are the ones who still determine the majority of the persons who are in these bodies that make determination and make rules about everywhere else in the world. They're predominantly white. powerful positions these individuals have. And me, a small fry, as they would call me in my hundred, in my hometown or my country of Jamaica, what power do I have? I, going forward, is thinking about liberating myself, seeking the things that give me peace and joy, which are mostly tied to nature. And whatever white people want to do, powerful or powerless, because not all white people are powerful, but because we are so indoctrinated, because our minds are so infested and infected, we talk about white people this and white people that as if they're not white people who are there, scraping the bottom of the well, as it was in the the mid ages, where you had peasants and you had these lords who it's always there. So the things that white folks have done to black people and other persons in the world, they have done to their own people. Human nature, this survival mode that people are always in, saying that the fittest survive, it's always that. And so when you try to understand people with your own mind, when you're not in that fitness or survival mode, you're not thinking that I will do anything that I need to do to survive. You'll always be complaining, always bitching and whining about who did what and who didn't do what. At the end of the day, on this day, going forward, I am thinking about me, Jenny Wren, what is best for me, not fighting any more battles for anybody, but addressing the things that will make me free, the things that will liberate me to make me have what I need. And sometimes being selfish is one of the ways to do it. No one can take my life until the Creator say it's time. I live with no fear of that happening, because I do understand that every time you open your mouth and speak against oppressive systems, you antagonize, you irritate, and you upset people. But my Creator, my source that brought me from water, from liquid, and kept me alive to this very day, will protect me. I will be protected by the Most High. No harm shall befall me. I'll be protected. And whosoever seek to hurt me will have to deal with my ancestors, my spiritual guides. And unless they say yes, nothing shall befall me. No enemy shall come through my gates. I'm different from today. I don't care what white people have done in the past and what they continue to do today. That is their prerogative. Every man and woman will have to deal with their day of reckoning. I waste no more energy on this, and I waste no more energy talking about things to black people, because they're not listening. They don't give a damn. They don't care. It's not worth it. I'm free. I'm freeing myself. For it's not easy. It's not an easy road. Even when you think you're liberated, you're not. Even when you think that, oh my goodness, how could you be so stupid? How could you not see? You realize that this mental chain is far worse than those physical ones. And fear is a lot more immobilizing than paralysis. A person who's paralyzed probably could move faster than someone who's fearful. The time has come. I'd like to keep doing this with you. I would ask you to give me topics that you want me to talk about. Um, I'm thinking about, going live sometimes on Facebook or even on YouTube. I have to get that set up. Topics that are of interest to you, not just repeating the same thing over and over. It doesn't make any sense. It is what it is. We already know that people in the world are going to do for what is best for them. Individuals will do what they think is best to keep them powerful. We just have to do the same for ourselves. I'll always call the bullshit. I'll never be afraid to call the bullshit. I just don't damn I don't care anymore. I don't give a damn. The truth is the truth. Throw me up, lock me away, kill me, whatever you want to do. As long as I know whatever I'm speaking about is my own experience and it's true. And if you're offended by it, it's because you're guilty of it. But at the same time, I'm seeking wealth, true wealth. I'm seeking peace and love for myself, taking care of me for once in my lifetime, loving me and turning that love to me, removing any animosity and hatred from my heart that is only going to stand in my way of receiving that beautiful life that I seek. I don't give a damn about the black cause. It's not my problem. You take care of your own issues. Work on you, work in your household. Confront what you need to confront. Deal with what you need to deal with. I can't live in this place and understand the history and be here deciding that I'm just going to talk about it and it's going to change. Hell no, it's not going to change. It is what it is. It'll never change. Accept people for who they are and what they do and learn how to be you. Be blessed, African people. Think on these things.